Hi everyone, my name is Kale Hicks, and if you guys don't know me, I'm the author of Kale Stone and Outliers Tale. Just a heads up, if you guys haven't read the story yet, this is going to be a spoiler. I am going to talk about the plot of the story. I'm going to be going through my favorite scenes, my favorite characters, and also giving you guys some extra details and a sneak peek at Galestand and Outliers Tale. So, I just thought it's been quite some time since Kale Stone was released, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to connect with you readers and just give you guys some insight as to where the series is going and how things are progressing. So, my idea is to have this be a 3-story series, and Galestand and Outliers Tale is currently in the beta reader phase. I've already edited it, and I wanted to get professionally edited, and then hopefully I can give it to you guys as soon as possible. So let's get into the plot a bit. Warning again, there are spoilers ahead. I just don't want someone who hasn't read it to get into this and be like, you just revealed the entire story, how dare you. Anyway, so we find Jeremy. He's living in the outskirts, which is a completely barren area that surrounds 6 cities. So let's break that down a little bit. The outskirts are a barren area where there are really barely any resources except what they get from the outside the wall of the cities. And a lot of bad people live there. Unfortunately, there are some innocent people that also live there, and you can find some of those good people as you go through the story. It's just unfortunate circumstances. So the cities there are 6 of them. Pretty much large groups of people who have built a wall around their city and said, this is the best way that society is going to move forward. Like, we are the best chance for a better world. And we find that there are some dictators in place that have made some terrible decisions and made the world the way it is from a previous democracy. And if someone's not following the rules or the laws, then they get booed over the wall, which understandably makes people not so happy. So we find Jeremy, and he's living in a shelter area with his mother, who is sick. So we find out later in the story that there's a virus going around the outskirts that affects people 40 and over. And we find out that Kale Stone actually created this virus to try to get rid of the people in the outskirts. So Jeremy is doing everything he can, giving his mother, medicine from, the black market in a way, for people that, can get insider things from the cities and all that stuff. So one night he goes to sleep and he wakes up and his entire house is on fire. He gets his mom out, through the smoke and the fire and everything. And just when he goes to see if she's all right, he sees someone above him, and they knock him out and give him a device. They stick it behind his ear. So, Kale Stone is known for, medical advancements and technology. That's kind of like their sector. So he gets this from somebody at Kale Stone. He doesn't know who. And then, when he wakes up, his mom is nowhere to be found. His house is burnt to the ground. He has no idea what is happening. So after, taking this thing out, he passes out and he wakes up and people are raiding his house, and he's, a little overwhelmed. So he goes to find someone he knows in the market named Hemway, who is the only other person he trusts besides his mother and the only person he really knows. And he feels like he's crazy. He's like, this may sound crazy, but someone stuck something in my head. Now I have this code. I had this dream. I had this code. And they were like, pretty much figure out how to use it. So Henway, being the good guy that he is, that we find out throughout the story, is like, I know these people that will help us. They're kind of like a secret society, and they know more about technology than the people in this area. He's like, I'll take you there. So they travel hundreds of miles across the desert, and they run to Dan and Serena, who are in a half-buried sand-covered town in the desert. And they find out that bounty hunters were sent from Kale Stone to pretty much retrieve and bring him back because he has valuable information. And they're hiding from them there, and then somehow get thrown off their scent when a sandstorm comes, and are thankful to get away. So they can make it to the jungle, and Jeremy, is like, what are we going to do? There's people after us. Where are these people located? Like, how on earth do you know this secret society that's going to help us and save my life and save my mom because someone took his mom? Well, the bounty hunters run into him and find him there, and he's like, I don't know how to fight, but I'm going to try. And so essentially, just as he's about to get his butt whooped, Galestand comes and swoops down and saves him and locks him up in their secret society. But lo and behold, we find out that Hemway knows more than he was letting on and was actually a part of this secret society when things first started out, and decided to strike out his own because personal reasons, morality. He didn't like the direction they were going. So they make a kind of somewhat peace treaty and find out that this thing that Jeremy was given is significant to all of their survival, but they don't know how. So they start training Jeremy and trying to figure out what's going to happen. And they sneak into the city and try to find out what kind of device he was given and see if they can get any insight. One day they find a man rambling on the edge of the jungle and bring him up and question him. And he's literally lost his mind because he's been stuck in the desert for weeks upon months. They aren't sure how much time. But they find out that this is the person that knocked Jeremy out and gave him the device because he knew they were going to do something terrible. So in his crazy state, he reveals to Jeremy that it's a code to save the world and stop missiles that are sent to destroy all of the outskirts so that the cities can be the ones that are, the ones moving forward in a sense. So they break down the code and find out that it's so many days, so many seconds, minutes, hours. There's going to be, for 6 cities, there's 2 missiles launching from each city, and that it's going to destroy all the outskirts. So they're like, okay, we know we have this much time to prepare. We're going to stop the missiles, but we need to get in there and find out what's happening. So they actually find out that they have the guy that's more technology savvy in Galestand has a connection with someone in the rebel base. And they talk to this guy in the rebel base whose name is Harper. And he's like, I haven't heard much about that, but I have some people in the palace. Let me get back to you. So they kind of all convene and say, well, this is the thing. If we can't stop the missiles from destroying everything that's out here, we need to have a backup plan because otherwise we're gone. We know that Kale Stone didn't make these missiles to destroy, themselves. So they have some way of protecting themselves. So they devise a way to make a shield to cover Galestand in the event that they can't stop these missiles. And they talk with the rebels and they make this plan to make a diversion outside the wall. So a group of them are outside the wall making a diversion so that Jeremy and another group can go in and stop the missiles from launching. So they do so. They go in, and as Jeremy is typing in this code, he's like, okay, we can save the world kind of thing. in a way. He finds out, oh my gosh, the sequence has already started. There's no way I can stop what's happening. So the technology savvy guy from Galestand, Josiah, is like, well, maybe I can divert them. They're also going to have a shield, it looks like, and we can divert them and save some of the outskirts. So as he's typing in, the code and stuff that he needs to have this happen, people are coming in and trying to attack them. And just as Josiah thinks he has diverted away enough, the missiles launch and hit the other side of Kale Stone just as their shield is coming up, destroying half of Kale Stone and the wall of the palace that they are in. So, people are blown to the side. And Jeremy finds out that his mom is no longer living, that she was killed before the blast happened, which was very unfortunate. And it's kind of something that isn't dealt with till the next book. So just, Jeremy gets up, he's getting people out to safety, and he comes back and someone shoots him, and he passes out. And when he wakes up, he sees Harper, the leader of the rebels, and was like, oh, thank God I'm saved. But Harper reveals that he's actually the leader of the cities, and was doubling as the rebels to play both sides and find out information to help the cities. So that's pretty much the plot of Kale Stone in a nutshell. I really, really enjoyed writing the book. Some extra details would be, it took me 4 years to write it. That's a really long time. But when you haven't written a book, it's kind of difficult to write and make sure it's right and to get it out there. So I feel like as I wrote the book too, I was doing a lot of research and making sure things were right. Like, like what would happen if, like, I was trying to figure out, like, how why would it be if, I missed a launch? It's, crazy stuff you have to think about that you're like, well, someone's going to call me out on this. Like, let's be honest. So, I guess we can go into favorite scenes of the book. So some of my favorite scenes were the ones, when they were hiding in the desert for the bounty hunters. So, if you haven't poked around my Facebook page, I'm also going to be adding it to my author's page. I wrote some, like, short stories in the Kale Stone universe, and one of them is Dan Sereno, which is the couple they run to in the desert. So while they're there, they find out, like, these people have pretty much, like, almost doomsday preppers. Like, they have, like, jars and jars of canned food, and, like, they're out in the middle of nowhere, so no one's going to bother them, and they seem very resourceful people. They just are hermits, I guess. But when these bounty hunters come, there's a house, like the house they mostly live in, has like this fox wall, like they can go in this hidey hole in a wall and hide from these people, and it kind of made me think, like, why do these people have it? Like, why are they so prepared? And I feel like we just didn't cover enough of why they were the way they were in Kale Stone. So I kind of made a short story based off that. So I'll post that again after this. That way you guys can poke around and look. It's in my notes section. But it was just really interesting, like there was so much more in this universe that I hadn't even thought about exploring and explaining. And I guess another one of my favorite scenes was when Jeremy finds out that Harper is actually the mastermind behind everything. I mean, you pretty much go through the entire book thinking that Jericho is like the main bad guy, the main villain, and you come to find out that he's actually one step below Harper, and Harper has been the mastermind behind everything, like giving all the demands and deciding like where resources will go, and essentially being the head honcho for the rebels who were doing all the dirty work for the cities and the outskirts when they thought they were doing some noble cause, which I also explore in Galestand a little bit. You meet some of the rebels in that story, and you find out, like, they all feel so betrayed because, someone they thought was, like, the one to lead them to a new life and to victory against the cities was actually the one that was stealing information from them and making sure to keep everybody in line and to make sure that the city was always one step ahead, in a sense. So, my favorite characters of the book, I know I shouldn't have favorite characters, but I do. So Jeremy, I guess, is my first favorite character of the book, only because as you follow him through this book, you just see how much he evolves as a character. You see how, like, sheltered he was. Like, he didn't know so many things. Like, you find out, he lost his dad, and he read all these books that his dad left behind, and he became resourceful in his small area, in his small community, and, like, it wasn't as bad as he knew the outskirts were bad, like a bad place with bad people, but he didn't truly know until he ventured out of his area. So, like, I mean, just in the way that, like, he goes to the desert and he doesn't realize, like, how big the world around him was, or, like, he goes into Kale Stone for the first time, and he, like, can't even imagine living this way. He's like, I only read about this in stories, like, how is this even possible? But, like, it was just interesting to have someone experience things for the very first time. Like, one of my favorite scenes is when he sees a turtle, and he's like, why is that rock walking? He's like, what? Where did you take me? How is this happening? So just little things like that. And then to find out, like, at the end of the book, like, the whole journey was to take, obviously save the world, but to get his mom back, the person he cared about the most in the world, and then she's gone. So yeah, so sad. But Hemway, on the other hand, is another one of my favorite characters. You don't really think about him being one of the main characters in the beginning of the book, when he runs this stall, gives people medicine. He's really old, pretty much. But he ends up having, like, this huge backstory where, like, right when, when democracy happened in the very beginning of, I guess the divide of the cities and the outskirts, he was part of the secret society and ended up leaving because they thought of Galestand was more concerned of the good of the whole than the good of an individual in the sense of why he left. So it was just really interesting, and like he goes back and he has all these connections and really knows more than he lets on. And then like he gets there and gets Jeremy there, and he just kind of enjoys the ride. Like he's just sitting there and enjoying things and just enjoying life, I guess. So yeah, I mean, that's Kale Stone. I hope you guys like it. I loved writing it. So pretty much the next part is the fun part. I get to give you guys a two-page sneak peek of Galestand Outliers Tale. So here it comes. Alright everyone, here's a sneak peek of Galestand Outliers Tale. I hope you guys like it. So it starts out with chapter 1. The bark on the trees was still cool and moist from the night air. I could feel the water droplets on my hands as I climbed, causing the branches to become slick. I was searching for climbable branches above the pegs and perches. The sky was starting to grow lighter, causing me to feel anxious. The countdown indicated that the missiles would soon launch. I needed to see what was going to happen if the shield didn't work. The fate of every person outside of Kale Stone was depending on Jeremy. When Jeremy had come to us months ago with some crazy story about a code that was going to save the world, we thought he was crazy. Devising a plan to save our people hadn't been easy, but we had managed to make a backup plan. Now we just needed to wait and see if Jeremy was able to put the code in and stop the missiles from launching and destroying everything that we knew. I finally reached the top branches and made a seat for myself, making sure I had a good view. I broke the surrounding twigs to get a better view. The feeling I had was indescribable at the moment. My heart was pounding in my chest, in both fear and anticipation of all of this resolving. When my view was clear, Kale Stone was in front and center. I wanted more than anything to be there for them at the front lines. The walls and buildings were clearly defined even from here. I could see a mass of black at the far end of the wall away from the palace. I could only assume that that was the massive people of Galestand. "Can you see them?" asked someone from below. I looked down to see Caleb's wife, Nadine, standing below me. Her hands were on her hips. The wrinkles on her forehead only enhanced her worried look. "Yes, I see a large black area on the side of the wall. It looks like a distraction is working." She nodded slowly. Around her, everyone was busily moving medical supplies and making stations for everyone who would return, if they would return. I looked back at the sky, now seeing peaks of light and orange on the horizon. I could hear the animals all around me and my heart sank. If we would be safe under the dome and the cities were safe, what about everything else? What if the missiles destroyed the food and the foliage? What if they killed the animals? Had they even thought about that? Kale Stone had been part of 12 other cities that booted, 6 other cities that had booted people over the wall if they hadn't complied with the city standards. It wasn't until a stranger named Jeremy had brought us the information that we had found about the plan to get rid of us for good by launching missiles at us. My thoughts then turned to Tarek and Jeremy. They would be exposed to anything that happened over there. No, I had to think positively. Besides, I had something with Jeremy. He was kind, sweet, and brave, and with everything we had been through, I couldn't lose him. It was amazing how close we had grown in such a short time. A sudden loud rumble started in the distance. It was as if there was an earthquake. The ground and the trees shook only slightly. My head snapped up automatically, looking towards Kale Stone. It was strange how nothing looked different yet. I couldn't see the dome or the shield. However, I couldn't also see ours either. Josiah had said that it had moved the atoms and molecules in the air a certain way, making it impenetrable. I still wasn't exactly sure what those things were entirely, even though he had explained this to me several times. Just as I thought nothing was going to happen, there was a black figure that rose in the sky. From far away, it looked like a big black bird, springing high into the clouds. The only difference was that the red and orange flames that spit from the other end. "The missile has launched," I yelled. "Brace yourselves!" I glanced down to see people clinging to branches, trunks of trees, and house structures. The looks of terror on their faces mirrored what I'm sure was on mine. The mist was rising and rising, looking as small as an ant now. When it was about 300 yards in the air, it turned and curved downwards back towards Kale Stone. My heart stopped. What if it hit our people? They were crowded around the outside with no protection whatsoever. The missiles curved, flying over the city so low I thought it would hit the tops of the buildings. It made contact on the far wall on the other side of the city, away from our people. As soon as it made contact, the atmosphere changed. Right before my eyes, the dust plumed upward like a tree or a mushroom. Kale Stone disappeared into a cloud of dark dust. Then the dust cloud filled with rolling mixture of orange and black rolling quickly along the ground toward us. The gnome quickly disappeared as the smoke and dust licked the ground. Just as I grabbed branches for support and squinted my eyes, the dust climbed up over the dome. It looked as if it were crawling along with an invisible bubble. I looked above me to see the dust swirl and spin along the top of the dome. It looked like it was slowly receding, and the ashes slid down the dome to the ground, creating a thick ring around the border. I looked down to see Nadine peek up at me. "We're okay, the dome worked, it's over," I yelled. Everyone cheered and cried, holding on to one another. I didn't know the joy streaming down my face. I turned my attention back to Kale Stone. It was dusty and black. Who would tell when the dust would settle? I was scared for it to clear and actually see the destruction that had ensued. I had to hope that our people were safe. I climbed down the tree branches looking for a good spot to stand. I picked the first perch from the floor level. This excitement wouldn't last long. They would soon remember all of our people were standing outside the Kale Stone walls, and the panic would set back in. Tarek and Caleb were right. We needed to keep everyone calm. We had done so well so far. We couldn't let this pass over us. What would Tarek say? We had survived. We made it. We couldn't have done this without sticking together. I know it is not over, but we need to stay as strong as we are now. We will soon have our people coming back. Some will be injured, some we may lose, although it will be a tragedy. They will have served our people with honor and will be treated as so, heroes. Now we need to man our stations and be ready for the next wave. We can do this. You can do this, I said. Some of them stood silently, and some of them were wiping their tears from their faces. I could see it on all of their faces. They were still terrified, but there was also their determination left. I could only hope that my words would help keep their confidence through this crisis. I climbed to the deck pathway. Nadine was waiting for me with an expression I couldn't describe. I can't see Kale Stone yet. The dust hasn't cleared. I did see where it hit, which is on the other side of Kale Stone. If the black mass was our people, we might not have as many casualties as we think. I just hope that everyone is okay. It hit the wall. Depending on how much power it had, the whole wall crumbled or just some, I explained. Alright, you guys. Well, that was a sneak peek at Galestand and Outliers Tale. Just another note, it is from a different character's perspective, which is Samara, which you meet in Kale Stone. I really hope you guys like this. I will also put up the text so you guys can read along as I am reading the story. Alright, thank you guys. Bye.